This is to familiarize you with what we call data sources. And to properly understand what data sources are, before we even get into it, let's just talk about Centralpoint. We're capturing a lot of user activity, meaning we have a lot of forms that people are filling out over time. We might need to see the results of those forms. We have tests people are taking. We have emails people are opening. There's a lot of activity that's happening within the site, and oftentimes we want to gather that information for the benefit of reporting. So it's often times referred to as business intelligence, sometimes reporting. Call it what you will, visualization, mapping patterns. We call it data sources. And data sources to us allow us to render live reports like this one here. And this might show us everyone who did a particular thing in a certain time. And we need to make these reports so they're searchable. So I can search, for example, this person here and get right to their records. So they're actionable, live kind of reports. Sometimes these reports might show visual representations like this one here that's showing an area chart. I might want to see my progress over a period of time, or I might want to see a line chart. So we do support what's known as jQuery, which is a fancy way of outputting data for live charts, live reports for everyone who wants to see them. So what's happening behind the scenes is we're asking Centralpoint, show me this data, show me the users that are doing X, Y, or Z, and output that information in some fancy way. Maybe it's a map, maybe it's a chart, maybe it's a list, whatever the case might be. And when you look at these records, it's a little intimidating. You'll be like, well, how would you know how to summon this information? And how would you know how to output the formatting of that information? I mean, it would take a rocket scientist to do that. Well, first off, I just want to say that that's part of the service we provide you. So we will do that as part of our service if it's included, if reporting is included. But I want to show you how a non-technologist can do it themselves. So I'm going to create a new report here called New Report 12345. And you'll notice these two little links here, Select Command Builder. This allows me to select from any module that I might want to pull from, and let's just pick one and see what it does. So here's this giant SQL command that'll pull out all of those records if I wanted to. All right. For the demonstration, because I think this is more fitting, is I'm going to say, look, for one of the forms that we have set up here within the site, let's select, this form right here. And the form that we have out there in the field where we're collecting this information happens to collect all of these individual fields. And we have a separate help file for forms and Forms Wizard so you can understand how these come together. But I'm going to say, look, I don't want, for this one, I don't want province, I don't want member ID, I don't want taxonomy ID. So you can cherry pick, because sometimes you're collecting more than you would like to report on. You just want to distill it down for management, for an example. So I've selected the fields that I want, and I'm going to click this little button right here called Generate. And it's created, what for me is Mandarin Chinese, all of this stuff, all of this code. Now, this first one is the select command. This is where we're asking the database what we want. And I wouldn't even begin to try and write that in a million years. That's why we have these little helper files to do that. So it's summoning that information from the database. And now that I've done that, I want to format it. So also in that little help file, it gives us kind of a starter kit here to say, all right, put that in the template content field. All right, so I'm going to go down to template content. Here we are. Just paste it in there kind of blindly. I'm then going to go down to the bottom. This is item content. And again, I'm going to paste that in there, without really knowing what I'm doing. So I'm going to submit that. So what I've done is I've created a report called New Report 12345. This report looks like this. So it spit out an intelligent, searchable, sortable grid view of information. And when I eyeball it, there might be some things I don't want. So, for example, description, position, upload. They're empty, so there's no point me including those in my report. So I'm going to say description, position, and upload. I'm going to go into the report that I've created, and I'm going to say, let's take out position. take it out of both of these, the header and the results. Let's also take out upload. Didn't want that. Doesn't pertain. And the other one was description. So I'm going to take out description and description. I'm going to resave this. Okay. So now when we look at our report, it's shorter. It doesn't have those unnecessary columns. So you can trim this any way that you want to. But what's great is as those forms are being filled out, you're getting a live report of that information. Now, this little guy here, this little script, this script represents this report. Now, the reason we do that is that Centralpoint's an object-oriented platform. This gives us more control over what we can do with that thing. So, for an example, I might take that script and I might go and put it on a web page somewhere, and I'm going to call this my report 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 private only. So oftentimes, these reports are only seen by those people who have the privileges to see it. So I'm going to say, look, this report's not for everybody. This report's only for those people who log in, maybe to the intranet, who have a role which equals private, or perhaps that was just a report for the CEO. So that's the benefit of those objects, is that we can now take that and assign that to many people, different people based on who gets to see it. And now, as I log in, I'm just going to log in as though I have some private credentials here. Here I am. And under these reports here, I have somewhere a My Report 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 private only right there. So that wouldn't be seen by the public. And here's my report, which I can access and get to and see my latest stuff. Now, frankly, reporting is interesting because a lot of people get tired of logging in and even checking that. And so, everyone's got a lot of things to do. It's difficult to keep up with this stuff. So we might even want to say, look, let's set up a monthly email delivery to, a certain group of people. And in that report, we're going to drop in, the latest data that they need. So the reason we've done use data sources is, again, the value of that object. Sometimes we need to take that data and leave the website entirely and deliver someone that data. We might need to convert that into an Excel spreadsheet or some type of an output format. And it needs to be intelligent so that, next month when all of the new requests come in, this person gets a report of all of that data. So data sources is very powerful. Sometimes we can even use it for website display. Let me show you what I mean. Hopefully I can do this right. I'm going to go this time and I'm going to say I don't want to create forms. I actually want to pull records from my news module right here. Here's all the crazy fields, that the news module can display. And here again, I'm going to say, all right, well, let's sort these up and let's put them, let me just copy it in there. I'm going to say my news 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just so I can find it later. And then how do I format it? Well, in this case, it's saying put this into styles, because it has to inherit CSS and all sorts of stuff. And let's go down here and put that into template content. Something tells me that one's already there, but I'll just paste it in there anyway. And then finally, let's go down to the item content and put that in here. Okay. So what we've done here is we have created a data source. There it is right there. So new report and my news. There's my news 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here is the list of stuff. Let's see what's going to happen here. Here's all of my latest news records. So that becomes a dynamic feed of content. And let's say, for an example, I wanted to put that on a web page. I can do that. So I'm just going to go over here and create a page. Now, it could be within the page, so there could be other things on the page. I'm just going to say my news thing is here. There it is. My news 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, because this is news and it's not a private report, I'm just going to make this public and make it available on the site. I'll put it under the About Us section of the main site, just so we can see that it works and check that we did it okay. And I'm going to log out. And we have now My News 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, what we're looking at now is live dynamic content that is feeding to this site. And again, from a data source that I created. This will serve this to the page. It's loading right now. And I think the reason it's taking just a moment is I dumped all of the news records in the entire site all to this one page. And I want to talk about that because that's important. Here we have these links, with read more and all that. And I might want to click on this record here to show you that these links work. That means that as I add new content or I add new whatever, that dynamic feed's going to appear. Let's just test that out and add a new news article. Here we have news. Oh, I have to log in again. Forgive me. Okay, I'm going to go to news. I'm going to add a new article called Sample 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Blah, 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 blah. Just put in some content there and submit it. So that when we then refresh our page, and again, a little delay here because I set it up just dumping everything to the page, and I'll talk about performance and how to trim that just now. Once it loads, forgive the delay. Okay, we have sample 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There it is. So, because it's the most recent one, it showed up at the top because of the way it's sorting all of that data. Okay, so what's neat about that is that this means that you can create your own composite view of the latest, greatest data. If you want to. Again, our staff is here to do that for you, so you don't have to, but this is how we do it for you. If you are curious or your developers are curious, this is how you would do it yourself. And let's just go in there. Now, one thing, I don't speak this database language, but I do see that I'm asking for the top 1,000 records. So I'm going to say, look, I just want the top 10 records. So I'm going to make that change right now. And now when we serve this page, it's instantaneous in its load because we're not asking for 1,000 records. We're only asking for 10. Now, assuming we were asking for 1,000 records, which might put a demand or a load on the site, as you saw earlier, we might want to say, look, because there's so many records serving to that page, we want to apply incremental cache. So this means that every hour, that page will be cached so that it'll be instantaneous for the next person. Now, we don't need to do this because it's moving so quickly now, but as you can see, there's no delay whatsoever. And this is what's called server-side cache. So that means that the first time it loads, it's saved in server cache memory for everyone else. So it's lightning speed for everyone. Very important point there. So I'm just going to take off our cache and do that sort of thing. So data sources are key. Now, another thing I want to talk about, data sources can be made a part of the individual dashboard. And that means that within our members and within our dashboards, we might want to make that an option. So if we go into the module designer, and let me just find dashboards here, personalized dashboard, you will see that we have the ability to include certain things in the dashboard. So if I wanted to make that an option where people can add or delete that live feed from their view of the world, we could do that. The reason that's important is because data sources don't just deal with our data. If we wanted to, we can actually reach out to your databases or your web services or Twitter or whatever we want to show live visuals, live reports coming from those other systems. So this is a very important point because data sources need to aggregate live snapshots of information, perhaps from your CRM system, from your payroll system, from your ERP, which allow us to create a menu for people to log in and say, oh yeah, I'd like to see, my last 4 paychecks, or I'd like to see the last 10 products I've ordered from you. Well, of course, we're not storing some of that information. I mean, we might be if we're providing e-commerce solutions for you. But when this user logs in, we might need to create, some type of a dashboard where they can select those types of things. And let me just shrink this down so I can see what my options are here. Within my modules here, okay, let me look at examples. Forgive me. Okay, within my examples, I have a personalized dashboard. There it is. Sorry, didn't have the demo site set up properly. Here's what the dashboard is. So basically, these are those snapshots that you saw earlier of those data sources. So I might wish to say, look, my view, when I log in next time, I want this little report right here to be, at the very top right of my view. Or this one here, I want to move down. And what this is doing is it's saving a unique perspective of information for this user based on their login. And again, that touches on our global login. So by virtue of us being a single source, single sign-on solution, since we can authenticate these people when they log in, well, that means that one report can serve many. What we're saying here is that since I know that this person's coming in through Active Directory, I know their employee ID, I know their title, I know what client they are if they're coming in from the CRM. Well, that means that that subset of data coming from the data source could be serving only that one client. And that means that we can code these little snapshots and pictures one time. And what we're doing is in the data call, when the person logs in, we're going to be passing, whatever the user's ID is. So John will see it one way, Bill will see it another way, one report serving everybody. Again, back to that Centralpoint. What is the purpose of Centralpoint? It's to centrally manage all of these users' expectations with the least amount of records, I want to point out, so that one report can service everybody who's asked for it. And that's why we'll typically have a number of different data sources living in this module for the delivery of dynamic content, reporting, any of that kind of thing. A little side note is when creating forms, and we have a whole help file on forms and Forms Wizard, if you go ahead and create a new form using the Forms Wizard, it will automatically create the reporting for you. So you won't even have to go through those steps. So we've kind of looked ahead a little bit and said, well, any form that someone's going to create likely will eventually need reporting. So let's just create the reporting when the form's created. So we stress that this tool be used when creating new forms so that you don't even have to worry about it later. And it's already waiting for you. So we hope this was helpful. If you have any more questions, please contact your analyst or production manager. And thank you very much.